Hello, Naveen. Namaste. Hari Om.
Namaste, Hari Om, Brother Shankar. How are you? I'll reduce my video. Here I am. How are you doing, Brother Shankar? Can you hear me, Brother Shankar? Can you hear me?
Hello, Brahmadas.
Hello, Brother Shankara.
Namaste.
Namaste.
You're muted, so I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Brother Shankar?
I hear you, Naveen.
Hi, Brother, how are you?
I don't think Brother Shankara hears you or me.
Yeah, I don't think he's hearing us.
I'll send him a type of message. Maybe he'll see the message.
I was thinking something wrong with my speaker.
Yeah, me too. But the fact that you and I can hear each other.
Brahmadas, how much longer do you think you'll be working from home?
I'm going to type you a message because
You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm not muted.
We're not muted, Brother Shankar.
Read your message. Read your message.
I seem to have everything proper here. I haven't got you all muted, so I don't know why I can't hear you.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Naveen, can you make yourself heard?
I'm saying, but I think you are.
Yeah, I see you waving. Can you
Yeah.
unmute yourself? It seems everything's muted.
I'm unmuted.
I can't hear anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What that can be?
The difficulty was here. I had the sound turned off at the keyboard. Hello, Ashley.
Oh. So do you hear us now?
I do hear you now.
Thank you.
It suddenly occurred to me that I had turned the
Okay.
doing something, and I had turned off the sound at the keyboard.
To answer your question, Brother Shankar, I think I'll be working from home indefinitely.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Because I've proven I can do the job, and I'm getting lots of work done. They're like, hey, we'll save the travel money. You just work from home from now on.
Well, that's good.
Saves them a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it saves them a lot of money on travel and housing and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Well, that's good.
And tonight is the last night of Swami Harinamananda's 6-week online Vedanta course. And our guest speaker last week was my old friend Swami Atmagyanananda.
From Washington, D.C.
Yes, it's good to see it's like seeing an old friend again, because I used to hang out in D.C. a lot.
Right. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Tamara.
Hello.
Hello, James.
Brother Shankara, how you doing this evening?
Well, you know, it's a pretty good evening. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good. Been busy, but good.
There comes Haima.
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Namaste, Haima. Good to see you.
Me too. What chapter are we reading, Brother
You
Shankara?
know, I've lost track of what chapter. I think it may be chapter 5 or 6. Brahmadas, do you know what chapter we're on? This is the thing about reading on Kindle, you know. I don't know enough about it to just flip around like some people do. So I just have to kind of do the best I can here.
And no one could hear me because I was muted. We are on chapter 7. And if you search on unhindered by lust, it should take you to the right.
Right, we're going to start with the words, men whose discrimination has been blunted by worldly desires.
Is that chapter 7?
Well, I don't know, dear.
Okay.
All right.
I found it. It's on page 88 of our book.
Yes, chapter 7.
See,
Yeah.
it's the very end of chapter 6, right?
No, it's chapter
Oh, no,
7.
Chapter 7. End of chapter 7. You're
You
right.
have a book.
Got to count my Roman numerals there.
Good evening, Ashley.
Chapter VII.
Yes, EII. All that Latin class paid off, but I still can't count, so I don't know how that. So, Brahmades, what is it that you do?
I am an Oracle consultant.
Ooh, very cool.
Very cool. I love it. I love what I do. Usually, not always, but most of the time I love it. Depends on who I'm working with.
And you can do that remotely?
Yeah, I'm fully equipped to work remote, and I'm working 100% remote now. And I'm working pretty hard, and I'm getting a lot done. But I must take time off for my Bhagavad Gita class. That's a priority.
Absolutely, you do. Absolutely. Let's keep our priorities straight.
And do you live in Atlanta?
I live in Atlanta. Yes. Hot Atlanta. Not too hot these days, but
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all suffering and joyous beings everywhere. So, for those of you who just joined us, I'm told we're in chapter 7, and in at least one edition of the book, we're on page 88. I started back a little bit so that we would read into one of Krishna's great promises. This is a promise as great for readers and believers in the Bhagavad Gita as is the parable of the prodigal child in Jesus's teachings. what he says here, if taken to heart, allows you great freedom in choosing your spiritual path. And you will hear what it is that Krishna requires for him to be a full participant in your path. Men whose discrimination has been blunted by worldly desires establish this or that ritual or cult and result to various deities according to the impulse of their inborn natures. But it does not matter what deity a devotee chooses to worship. But it does not matter what deity a devotee chooses to worship. If he has faith, I make his faith unwavering. Endowed with the faith I give him, he worships that deity and gets from it everything he prays for. In reality, I alone am the giver. And of course, the I alone who is speaking is the divine person, Ishvara, Ishwari, beyond name and form, but taking all of these forms for the desire of, according to the desire of the devotee. It is that nameless, formless divine being, the ocean of consciousness, that is the giver. But as Sri Ramakrishna said, in the ocean of consciousness, because of the cooling effect of the devotion of the devotee, great masses of ice form. He'd seen pictures of icebergs. Great masses of ice form. And so the metaphor is, these are the deities, these are the forms that the deity takes for us, because of us. And Krishna says, if you worship that deity with faith, I will make that faith unwavering, and you will receive everything you pray for. In reality, I alone am the giver. Now, as we worship these deities and our spiritual understanding and our depth of experience increases, what happens, Sri Ramakrishna says, is the sun of knowledge melts away the form. And so we become united with the undivided, the unspecific ocean of consciousness. Before we go on, are there any questions or comments about what was just said? Because this is one of the seminal verses in the Gita. That Krishna will do this for you, that you have this great latitude, this great breadth of whatever appeals to you in the way of the divine form or formlessness.
When he says, in reality, I alone am the giver, is he saying me, Krishna, is the giver, or me, the eternal Brahman, is the giver?
The eternal Brahman neither gives nor receives. The eternal Brahman is attributeless. No, it is Brahman manifest, and that's a Nirguna Brahman that you're speaking of. So it is the Saguna Brahman, which that is Brahman with attributes, that is speaking, and that the attributes, the Brahman with attributes, Saguna Brahman, is called Ishvara or Ishwari. And in this case, he's just called Krishna. But it is that and that alone that speaks to us through the Gita and takes form, as he said earlier, when Righteousness declines and vice prevails. I make myself a body and come among you. Good question. Anything else before we move on? Okay. But these men of small understanding only pray for what is transient and perishable. The worshippers of the devas will go to the devas. So also my devotee will come to me. So those who are of small understanding pray for the things of the world, and in the afterlife, the things of heaven. Now, is that wrong? No, it's not a question of wrong or right. It's just a question of where your heart is. Do you wish to be heaven is just our situation magnified without the suffering. All of the things that we experience here, including the petty jealousies and so on, when I say no suffering, heaven is not an altogether pleasant place, according to the Sanatana Dharma. It's rich with pleasure, but it also has the whatever you bring with you, whatever flaws remain in your character, those manifest in heaven as well. So that's what he says, that those who worship the devas will go to the devas, to the heaven of the devas. And they will experience the fruits of their merits and then return to human form. So also my devotees will come to me. This is the road of the saints, where you do not take a human form again. You may take human form if you do it voluntarily, along with an avatar, an incarnation when they come. Each of the avatars has their band of disciples that comes with them. Sri Ramakrishna referred to them as his band of minstrels. So, but that's a voluntary incarnation, not one driven by your desires. Thus think the ignorant, that I, the unmanifest, am become man. They do not know my nature, that is one with Brahman, changeless, superhuman. So this is an answer to your question, Brahmadas. There is, according to Sri Ramakrishna and according to the Upanishads, no difference between Brahman unmanifest and Brahman manifest. It is just, as Sri Ramakrishna put it, water still, water in waves, it's the same water. So he says, these ignorant ones, they do not know my nature, that is one with Brahman, changeless, superhuman. Veiled in my Maya, I am not shown to many. How shall this world, bewildered by delusion, recognize me, who am not born and change not? I know all beings, Arjuna, past, present, and to come, but no one knows me. Now, what does he mean, no one knows him? There is no way that the finite mind is going to grasp the infinite. Instead of knowing that, we become one with that. And so the verb that we use is realize. No one knows me, but you can realize that. You can realize Krishna. All living creatures are led astray as soon as they are born. And notice, all living creatures. This is not restricted to human beings. All living creatures are led astray as soon as they are born by the delusion that this relative world is real. This delusion arises from their own desire and hatred. But the doer of good deeds, whose bad karma is exhausted, are freed from this delusion about the relative world. What does it mean, bad karma is exhausted? As we go forward in spiritual life and become more and more dedicated to, united with, and completely in sync with, so to speak, the divine being through our spiritual practices, the bad karma that we accumulated in the past is vitiated. It is, as Holy Mother said, destiny herself strikes from the book of record what is written there about you. This is Holy Mother, these are Holy Mother's words. Destiny herself strikes from the book of record what is written there about you. And so, as Dhruva pointed out on Sunday, instead of a great sword blow, which would injure you greatly, you receive a pinprick. Because you no longer need to learn the lesson that the sword blow would teach you. So this is what Krishna means. But the doer of good deeds, in other words, that person who has replaced their lower samskaras with higher samskaras, better ways of being, thinking, and doing. But the doer of good deeds, whose bad karma is exhausted, are freed from this delusion about the relative world. That's what our spiritual practices lead to. You no longer are hypnotized by the relative world. You live here, you understand you're living here, but you occupy something that is best called the witness position. You simply witness the gunas doing what they do, Krishna's Maya unfolding. So these people, they hold firmly to their vows and worship me. Now the form of worship, as he said, maybe earlier, just a few paragraphs back, the form of worship may be very different, very varied. This is why we should never judge or criticize others for their ways of worship. What do we know? We don't know whether their sincerity is there or not. They hold firmly to their vows. In other words, to the way that they have said that they're going to live and worship me. Men take refuge in me to escape from their fear of old age and death. Thus they come to know Brahman. Notice that Krishna is very blunt here. People take refuge in me to escape from the fear of old age and death. If we don't want to be born again, if we don't want to die in the condition that we came into this world, then we take we have that apprehension of old age and death. Men take refuge in me, people take refuge in me to escape from their fear of old age and death. Thus they come to know Brahman and the entire nature of the Atman and the creative energy which is Brahman. The creative energy which is Brahman. Now again, this is something for us to take note of. We are seeing all around us constantly creativity, 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 constantly, unremittingly. It is the nature of Brahman to be creative. Sometimes our creativity is inappropriate. And we seem to have created a society that Mother Nature is moving against with this great pandemic and so on. Because our creativity has run wild in a materialistic direction. The creative energy of Brahman, it exists so fully within each of us. Each of us is a glint of that infinite creative jewel. We're a facet of that infinite creative jewel. Knowing me, they understand the nature of the relative world and the individual man, and of God who presides over all action. So they have their priorities straight, just to put it in plain language. Knowing me, knowing the divine being, somebody has their sound on and we're getting feedback. Knowing me, the divine being, they understand the nature of the relative world, the fact that it is transient, it arises and passes away. It is the gunas attaching itself to gunas. And the individual man, that is to say, this reflectance. We're like a light bulb. When there is no energy in the light bulb, it's just a glass, a piece of glass with something inside. The minute the energy hits it, it's a glowing giver of light. That's exactly what the individual human being is, the individual man. We are a form of reflectance. And of God. They understand the nature of the relative world and the individual man, and of God who presides over all action. Even at the hour of death, they continue to know me thus. In that hour, their whole consciousness is made one with mine. Now again, this is Krishna's promise. If we attune ourselves in this way and make this our priority, we have no need to fear death. We have no need to fear old age, though it's a pain in the neck sometimes, I can testify. There's no need to fear it. It's just something happening that has to be endured. But in the hour of death, their whole consciousness is made one with mine. So before we move on to chapter 8, any comments or questions?
Yes.
Please.
I love you've always mentioned the fact that destiny can be taken off, and what is hit with a sword has become a pinprick. But today I got your comment made a very clear thing, is that we don't need it, is the reason why we just now get a pinprick.
Exactly.
When we start realizing this. So that makes me understand how much more we are creating our own destiny by needing the sword rather than the pinprick.
Yes, if we don't learn the lesson of impermanence, the truth of our being and of being itself is that it is eternal, changeless, infinite. What do we see? We see something that is time-bound, changing, finite. Until we learn our lessons, we will continue to receive blows. Until we learn that what is happening to us is, and this is done by replacing our lower reactions with higher reactions. It's described so beautifully in the book How to Know God by Swami Prabhavananda, chapter 2, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, as described as translated and commented on by Swami Prabhavananda. Replacing the lower samskaras with the higher samskaras. As I say samskaras because as long as we're thinking and doing, we're in the realm of duality. So one mental impression is replaced, a lower quality and lower productivity mental impression is replaced by one of higher productivity, higher understanding. By productivity, I mean, what is it that it produces in our thought, speech, and action? So, yes, we will continue to receive blows. As this is why Holy Mother says, all suffering is a blessing. We will continue to receive blows as long as we are married to the idea that this reality that we're living in, which is a lower form of reality, as Vivekananda said, we do not move from error to truth. We do, if you will, he said, we move from lower truth to higher truth. This truth that we're living in is fragmented by our distraction and delusion. There is only one truth. This is why he said, if you will, lower truth to higher truth. There is only one truth, but our knowledge of it is, which is ever present within us. But because of our mental and emotional and psychic state, it is fragmented or reflected in a dirty mirror. So our spiritual practices clean that mirror or restore ourselves to wholeness, if you like the image of fragmentation. Thank you, Elmer Polly. Anyone else?
Brother.
Okay. Onward. Talk about a portentous title, The Way to Eternal Brahman. If we didn't get it before, we're going to get it now. Arjuna, the every person, the one who asks for us and speaks for us, Arjuna starts the chapter by saying, tell me, Krishna, what Brahman is. What is the Atman? And what is the creative energy of Brahman? Explain the nature of this relative world and of the individual man. So, Arjuna heard what Sri Krishna said, and he said, I still don't get it. Who is God who presides over action in this body? And how does he dwell here? How are you revealed at the hour of death to those whose consciousness is united with you? So thank you, Arjuna. Those are our questions, all right. You made these big statements, Krishna. I still don't get it. Sri Krishna, Brahman is that which is immutable, Let's just pause over each of these words. Immutable, changeless. Everything in the relative world, everything without exception, is in vibration. The physicists will tell us this, as well as the yogis, as well as the rishis of the Vedas and the Upanishads. Everything is in motion, constantly changing. Brahman is that which is immutable and independent of any cause but itself, the causeless cause. When we consider Brahman as lodged within the individual being, each of you has lodged within you. This is why Sri Ramakrishna would say of his body, just a pillowcase. Just a pillowcase for the divine person, the divine being. And it wasn't true just of him. Each of us, our body is just a pillowcase, covering the pillow within. When we consider Brahman as lodged within the individual being, we call him the Atman. The creative energy of Brahman is that which causes all existences to come into being, which is why I said what I said before. We're seeing it constantly before our eyes. All existences, negative expressions of creativity as well as positive. All existences, the creative energy of Brahman. The nature of the relative world is mutability. The nature of the relative world instead of immutable. The nature of the relative world is mutability, constant change. The nature of the individual man is his consciousness of ego. Let's go again over this business of ego. If we read in the back of Swami Prabhavananda's translation of the Gita, there's something called the cosmology of the Gita. It describes and explains the 24 cosmic principles that, according to Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy in which the Gita is based, the Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya means counting or enumeration. So it's a kind of science. It is very definitely a kind of science. And it was propounded in the time that it was given to humanity by Kapila, who Krishna says, I was Kapila. So this is a way of understanding reality. And as I say, the Gita is based in it, as is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Sankhya says that manifestation, creation, is called Mahat, the great cause. Something happened, absolutely indescribable, ununderstandable, beyond finite understanding. Just call it the great cause. And Prakriti, which had been potential, now becomes manifest. So we have Mahat. The next aspect of creation, the next cosmic principle that manifests, is something called Buddhi. It means awakening. Buddhi, to be Buddhi is to be awakened. This is why Buddha is called the awakened one. Awakened to what? Awakened to the fact that there is something there. There is something where there was no manifestation, there is now, and so this Buddhi is a discriminative faculty that says, oh, this is this, and this is that. it tells one thing from another. It exists within us also, and is largely ignored within us because our habits cover up its quiet, small voice. The next thing that arises, the next cosmic principle that arises, is something called ahamkara, the I maker. And it is this cosmic consciousness saying there's this discrimination between this and that going on. Who is doing that? I am doing that. But it is the cosmic I. It is the cosmic I. Now we have 3 cosmic principles out of 24. If you follow the description of the cosmology down, you see that the other 21 cosmic principles are that which, through the instrumentality of the gunas, reflects the great cause, this buddhi, and this ahamkara. So your ego, that sense of separate self, is simply a reflection of that one cosmic being saying, I am in this mutable body stuff, this action and experience suit. So that's what your ego is. Your ego is a reflection. We think of it, we see the reflection dimly in the mirror of our fragmented awareness and think, oh, this is me. I am a separate being. No, no, no. It's a reflection. It is the mirror saying, I am alive. It is the light bulb saying, I'm creating this light. No. So there's no reason for us to be weird about the ego. There's no reason for us to say, well, I have to kill this. No, no, no. We just have to understand that that reflection, that sense of self, is the cosmic self reflected in our action and experience suit. And so if we think of it as somehow separate, if we think of ourselves as separate, then of course we're perpetuating the delusion, and we have this suffering as well as joy. We have this roller coaster ride of life. The nature of the individual man is his consciousness of ego, consciousness of the ahamkara, awareness of the ahamkara. And the problem is thinking of that it's I alone am God who presides over action here in the body, here in this body. So Krishna is saying, I am the ahamkara. I am the I maker. Your sense of separation, your sense of being a separate being, no. At the hour of death, when a man leaves his body, he must depart with his consciousness absorbed in me. In other words, in yoga. What does yoga mean? Yoga is a word that has 2 meanings. Union, absorbed, and the word also means detachment. Detachment from the delusion of separate humanity, separate being. So at the hour of death, when a man leaves his body, he must depart with his consciousness absorbed in me. Then he will be united with me. Be certain of that. How do we become certain of that? We become certain of that by doing our spiritual practices until finally we break through the constant interruption of our everyday awareness to the consciousness behind it. And when we do, just the process itself is very fulfilling and rewarding. There's bliss, there's greater understanding, there's greater concentration, there's greater productivity in the world, all these wonderful things. But finally we break through and we experience the consciousness behind. The living presence, as Swami Prabhavananda calls it. And when we do, then we know, oh, that's what is. The rest of this is just a reflection of that. It's just a reflection in this action and experience suit of the energy and truth of that consciousness. So notice I'm making a distinction between awareness. Our awareness is what we live with moment to moment. We can refine that awareness until it becomes the witness awareness. But even that is not consciousness. The witness awareness can observe and be invulnerable to that which is going on in our presence. And by in our presence, I mean action, even within the action and experience. But that still is dual. The witness and that which is witnessed. Consciousness is non-dual. When we experience consciousness, this is called savikalpa samadhi. It's what Jesus was speaking of when he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, they shall know God." Then he will be united with me. Be certain of that. Whenever or whatever a man remembers at the last, when he is leaving the body, will be realized by him hereafter, because that will be what his mind has most constantly dwelt on during his life. What's the implication? If you constantly think about money and things, that'll be what you're thinking about at death. If you constantly think of the Lord, and even if there's still some slight dualistic separation between you and the Lord, that will be erased at the end. This is what is said. Because you will be thinking of the Lord, even if you're thinking of it rather than absorbed in it. That's where you will go. Whatever a person remembers at the last, when he is leaving the body, will be realized by him in the hereafter, because that will be what his mind has most constantly dwelt on during his life. And we could not get a plainer instruction about what's going to happen at death, whatever we have preoccupied ourselves with, whatever has been our priority during our life, will be what our priority is at death. It's absolutely unavoidable. So if we make the divine presence and realization of the divine presence our priority, that's what will be. And those of you who were present for those talks, remember Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui Brujo, said, think of death as an advisor. Think of death as always just a few, either sitting on your shoulder or just a few feet off your left shoulder, and you don't know when death is going to tap you. So you don't have any time to waste. You don't have any time for foolishness. Therefore, you must remember me at all times and do your duty. So you don't just retire to the forest or sit alone in a room. You do what you need to do. That's the job of your action and experience suit. But you have your priorities correct. If your mind and heart are set upon me constantly, you will come to me. Never doubt this. Why does Krishna keep saying, be certain of this, never doubt this? Because this is our greatest pitfall, is that from moment to moment, day to day, we will postpone giving our whole heart, our whole mind to the divine, because you think, well, maybe that's not true after all. Maybe I'd better just take care of myself and my family, and maybe I just better make sure I have enough, more than enough, so that if there's an emergency, I won't be, preoccupied with the things, changing things of the world. That's not doing your duty. Remember me at all times and do your duty. If your mind and heart are set upon me constantly, you will come to me. Never doubt that. Make a habit of practicing meditation and do not let your mind be distracted. In this way, you will come finally to the Lord, who is the light giver, the highest of the high. So the recommendation is we must practice meditation. Not that we must as like dogma. No. There is no must like that. You're free to be and live your life as you see fit. But if we're going to achieve what Krishna's, this doubt-free state, you must practice meditation and not let your mind be distracted. In this way, you will come finally to the Lord, who is the light giver. There's the light bulb. It is the Lord that makes this light up. The Lord, who is the light giver, the highest of the Most High. He is all-knowing God, Lord of the emperors, ageless, subtler far than the mind's inmost subtlety. He is the divine presence, God. He is all-knowing God, Lord of the emperors, ageless, subtler far than the mind's inmost subtlety, universal sustainer, shining sunlight, self-luminous. So Krishna is trying to give Arjuna and ourselves some sense. What is this God? He is all-knowing God, Lord of the emperors, ageless. This is eternal, immutable, ageless. Subtler far than the mind's inmost subtlety. The finite mind has its absolute limitations in terms of grasping the divine presence. We can transcend that, the mind's limitations, but that's super consciousness, not our ordinary awareness. Ageless, subtler far than the mind's inmost subtlety, universal sustainer, shining sunlight, self-luminous. What fashion his form has, who shall conceive of it? He dwells beyond delusion, the dark of Maya. On him let man meditate always. For then at the last hour of going hence from his body, he will be strong in the strength of his yoga, faithfully followed. The mind is firm and the heart, the mind is firm and the heart so full, it hardly holds its love. And you can experience this. You can experience this right now. You keep on with your spiritual practices and you will experience this heart so full, it hardly holds its love. Thus he will take his leave, and he will take his leave, and now with the life force indrawn utterly, held fast between the eyebrows, he goes forth to find his Lord. That light giver was greatest. So before we go on, we've had there's just 8 minutes left in the hour. Before we go on to the next subject, are there any questions or comments? This is so powerful, what is being said here. It is such instruction. Yes, Haima.
I have one question. Do we have to meditate upon only Krishna or demigods is okay?
Oh my God. Earlier in the chapter, what did it say, Haima?
Yes.
Any form of the divine, any form,
Okay.
any form, as long as your faith is strong and unwavering, Krishna says, I'll get right behind that.
Right there.
I'll make that the reality.
Yes, that's what my belief was.
I'll make that your reality. It absolutely does not have to be Krishna. He specifically says that.
Exactly.
Any form
Demigods. That's right.
of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you do that with faith unwavering,
Yes.
and you work hard at it, he said, I'll get right behind it and I'll make it a reality for you. I'll give you the full fruits of that.
Yes.
What a promise. What a promise.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, it does not have to be Krishna.
Yes. But he is.
On the same topic, Brother Shankara, I just want to give my explanation.
Yes, please, Naveen.
Like, generally, people believe Gita is narrated by Krishna. So, in the form, in that manifesto, he was in Krishna when he was narrating. We think he's the one who is saying Krishna. Gita, but when Arjun asked him later, can I see your real roop? Then he shows him his Virat roop. So
Yes,
actually that is the one who is telling this Gita rather than the Krishna as a human being.
yes. And you'll notice that it's too much for Arjuna to bear.
Right. So that, like Haima's question was the same thing. He is the one, not the Krishna in the form we know, but his Virat Roop is the one who is teaching all this, saying, whenever he's saying me, I am, that Virat Roop, that not the Krishna himself.
Exactly. Yes, Krishna is, as Swami Vivekananda said, Krishna is only mother's shadow. It is the Shakti that is teaching. It is the Shakti that has made Krishna. The being that is speaking. Good point, Naveen. Anyone else?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I'm hesitant to ask this question because my thing is I keep getting back to the same thing, like form versus formless. Is form a preferred thing than formless? Can you just be grateful or pray to the nature as the creation of the Almighty?
Whatever appeals to your heart, Upper. It does not have to have form, no. As a matter of fact, Sri Ramakrishna says that these forms are only taken by the divine ocean of consciousness because of the cooling influence of our devotion. We create these forms. We, the divine presence in the form of this body, need something. So we ask for it. We create it by our love, by our devotion. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, when knowledge dawns, when the sun of knowledge arises, these forms all melt away. So if you're not drawn to some form of the divine, remember the story about the goat. You know, do you know the story of the goat? I don't want to take everybody's time with it if everybody already knows it. You know, Sri Ramakrishna told a simple farmer, because the simple farmer said he couldn't be drawn to any aspect of the divine, with form or formless. And Sri Ramakrishna said, what do you love? And the farmer said, well, I've raised this goat from the time it was just a baby, and I truly love that goat. And Sri Ramakrishna said, worship the goat.
Oh.
And so 3 years later, because the man knew what Sri Ramakrishna meant and took his instruction seriously, he literally worshiped the goat. He did all the things, garlands, special food, all this business. He worshiped the goat. 3 years later, he came back to Sri Ramakrishna, tears streaming down his face, and said, now I understand. The self, the divine presence is utterly without form. It is eternal. It is changeless. It is infinite. How can something so described have form? Only in our realm of duality do we have this business of form. But it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just that it's the nature of our minds to need something more concrete. We want a picture. We want a name. We want some attributes. So Ishvara is there. But as Krishna said earlier in this chapter, it doesn't matter what form of Ishvara you worship, what deity you worship. If you worship that deity with faith unwavering and with all your heart and energy, He said, I'll get behind it. I'll make it a reality for you. I'll give you everything that that has to offer, which is everything.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be with form, no.
Hmm. And the reason I asked is actually I believe in the form, like, but I keep finding myself flitting through the forms. Like it's Krishna, then it's Ma Durga, then Buddha. I mean, all different things. Whoever inspires me for the moment is in front of me. So
So
thanks for answering that.
hold that fickle mind in place. Choose one, dear. You know, don't let the mind be
That's
so
why I
fickle.
said, okay, then let me just go for nature is more alive and it reminds me of the creation.
Okay,
And,
then
yeah.
that's fine.
And then
But it won't. Didn't you take Diksha?
yes.
Okay. See if you can't follow your guru's instructions.
Okay.
See if you can't just follow your guru's instructions. And one of the things that is the profit of following our guru's instructions, which are not complicated, they tame the fickle mind. They tame the mind's tendency to want to go here and flit to this and go to that and so on. This is something, by the way, that is one of the deficits of the artistic or right brain dominant personality. It's not a fault. It's just a liability, because the heart is ever changing and ever so we have to use the left mind to bring that under control. Otherwise, it's not really possible to meditate, because we need some focus of concentration for meditation. So see if you can't follow your guru's instructions. And if you want to call and talk to me about that, you're welcome to.
Okay.
Very good questions, very good comments. Anyone else?
Yeah, you also explained a lot.
Brother Shankara, this is Swayam.
I know it is. Hello, Swayam. This is the first time I've heard from you this evening.
I know my mother-in-law is not feeling well, so I was taking care of her. I joined in late. But I just wanted to share with Amrapali my experience. Because of your guidance, I followed that, and slowly but surely I can see, I follow my guru's instructions to the letter and try to, just stick with whatever I got in Diksha. It's taken a while, but I can see that mind is starting to obey a little bit. I still have a long way to go, but it's starting to obey a little bit. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Swayam. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
And you never know how quickly things will go. You just keep on keeping on. And you don't know, as Swami Prabhavananda would say, and he would make this gesture. He said, all of you who are keeping on, all of you who are sticking on, he said, you're just a hair's breadth away. So how long it takes us to traverse that hair's breadth, we don't know. But be undauntable and just do it, because you never know when there'll be a breakthrough.
That's why I love coming to these classes and benefit, because of the satsang and the constant reassurance from you and the encouragement.
Well, remember, it's not coming so much from me as it is from the divine presence itself through this wonderful scripture that we're studying. Yes, I underline things.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that with Amrapali and with the rest of us. It does.
Thank you, Swayam.
Yes, Keith.
So if I'm understanding, so in the situation with the gentleman with the goat, so let's say at the time of passing, I mean, the goat came to his mind, but with the reverence that, that he was supposed to show the goat what you're saying is, and by inference, if, as the woman said earlier, her place to experience God is nature. If these things come to you in the time of passing, am I to understand they are akin?
Here's what happened to the man with the goat. What he understood. This is when he came back to Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "Now I understand." He understood that the reason he loved the goat was that the self was resident in the goat. It is the self that he was worshiping. He thought he loved the goat for the sake of the goat. No, we love anything. We love anything at all for the sake of the self. And so as we pursue our spiritual practice and penetrate the seeming, the appearance to the essence within, we see, that's the reason I love this person. That's the reason I love this place, because the self is more evident there. And so the man no longer, by the end of the 3 years, the man was no longer worshiping the goat as such. He was worshiping the self. And so he had penetrated beyond the appearance of goat to the reality of self. And that's what we do through meditation. That's what we do. This is why Krishna says, practice meditation. Learn to cause the mind to be undistracted, undiluted. And what you find, you can just call it the self, capital S, self. You can call it by any name you like. It is the reality. And it is the reality that is permeating everything. And that's why we love creation. That's why we love being alive. We think it's for all of the reasons that come with all of this training that Don Juan Matus calls our membership. We think it's for all those reasons. No.
But let's say he hadn't had that full realization yet. Let's say he passed in year 2 before he had the realization of the ultimate breakthrough.
Keith, you're so good at setting up these straw man arguments.
I'm sorry. It's just the way my brain thinks.
We don't know what would have happened in year 2. All we know is this story. So the point of this story is that if we worship anything with full devotion, we come to understand the essence and why we're worshiping it. And so who only knows what would have happened in year 2, if he hadn't yet had the realization. He would have been still in a more ordinary state, I suppose. But I didn't mean to scold you, Keith. It isn't that I'm objecting. I'm just saying, let's focus on the heart of the matter, rather than distracting ourselves by what ifs. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I do, and that I wasn't focusing on that story as much as I was the content of it doesn't sound like it's equivalent to having that realization. Is all I'm saying.
All right, here's what Krishna says about this. Arjuna later on in the Gita asks, what if a person is following the path of yoga and before their death, they stray from the path of yoga? Won't they be lost? They won't have any home in this world or in the next. They'll be lost like a cloud broken off from the front. And Krishna, in one of the few instances in the Gita where he addresses Arjuna this way, says, no, my son, that's not what will happen. What will happen is what has happened to each of us. Each of us who is here this evening had this happen. We were on the path. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here on a Wednesday night. We were on this path before. And so Sri Krishna says, what will happen if you pass away without having reached the goal of yoga, you will be born into a family that somehow is auspicious for you to go forward with your spiritual quest. And he says, in a sense, your very bones will make you do it.
And that's what I was getting at. And the reason I asked that question is I'm still having troubles with the form piece of it. And it sounded almost as if the intention is there, regardless of the focus being specifically on the form or on, then these things were equivalent. And it sounds like that's not the case. And that's all I was trying to clear up.
Okay. Well, you do not have to worship God with form. You absolutely, it is not a requirement. If nothing of form appeals to you, then ask the formless divine presence, that which makes everything happen. This is what Jesus was pointing to and saying so strongly. Ask and ye shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. If you ask your Father for bread, will he give you a stone? If you ask for a fish, will he give you a serpent? Now the Father, within the Judaic tradition, is formless, nameless. So that which is resident within each of us. And when we ask with that sincerity and that persistence, it manifests. Very good, Keith. Very good. I'm glad you clarified.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Swam.
I just sort of had another thought. Now, I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but when I think of like an artist, they conceive of whatever they want to paint in their mind, and because of the intense focus, and they're able to bring it out on the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa, the form, we see on the outside a picture or whatever, but with intense meditation and focus on the inside, we can make that form be more real and more come alive. It's kind of flipping, the artist creating what is in their mind to the outside, and we converting what is on the outside to the inside. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. And it is that same creative act. It is that same creative act. You've hit a nail right on the head, Swam. It is the same creative act. We take form and make it a reality on the inside. An artist conceives of a reality as form on the inside, and then produces it on the outside. Same creative act. Very good. Anything else, dears? All right. Well, it's after 9 o'clock, so we'll call it an evening. The next opportunity for us to get together is Saturday morning. Looking forward to seeing any and all of you who wish to join us for studying the book Realizing God. This is a collection of Swami Prabhavananda's talks. It's like sitting at his knee. So, with that.
That's online, right?
Yes, it's just look in your newsletter. You'll find a link for that, just like all the other classes.
Mm-hmm. Brother Shankara, how are you doing?
Reasonably well. This recovery is going more slowly than I had hoped, but then I'm unrealistic in many things.
But you're meeting people. I mean, are you reaching out to people if you need anything?
I'm meeting people people can come here if they like. We keep our distance. We wear masks if we're going to be in prolonged communication. I talk with a lot of people on the phone, through email, and also I have some Zoom meetings if people want to set one up. I'm happy to have a Zoom meeting with anyone who wants to do that. It's, I'm in my 79th year now, and as Betty Davis said, this getting old is not for sissies.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Well, thank you, dears. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Jai. So, good night all. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. Go in Holy Mother's embrace. Be safe, be cheerful, and hope to see you again soon.
Brother Shankara.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
All right, good night all.
Good night.